You know, listen, if you can't imagine a world like that that's eventually going to be free of filthy lucre and money, then don't expect to be there. But if you want to go to a world like that, where everybody around you, you know, the whole planet is free of oppression, then you need to use your imagination and say, how would a society like that work? Because that's the kingdom of heaven right there. It's going to be a lot like what you see here. The only difference is you've got this body that cannot perish. It's not immortal. It's an immortal body, and there's no more unnecessary human suffering. Whether or not there's going to be natural disasters, I don't know. But if there are, you know this much, is that they can't harm you because you've got a body that cannot be harmed. That's that simple. It's written that we will have bodies like the angels of heaven. We won't be angels of heaven, but we will have bodies like that. So if you want to go to a world like that, where you and your children, your children's children, are born free, they're not beholden to the money masters, to the money printers, to Satan, essentially, and his henchmen, all the minions that go along with Satan and that spirit thereof in this monetary-based reality, okay, then that's the place you get to go to. You need to remember that you either can imagine going to a world that's free for everybody or going to that other world. And so it's a serious matter, and I ask everybody to think long and hard about where they want to spend eternity, and what they expect in the scheme of things, in evolution, and what their heartfelt values really are. Do you value just being happy, just having a sense of peace of mind, of saying I'm free from my enemies because God has given me permission to love my enemies, permission. And we can say, well, wait, that doesn't even make sense because I hate my enemies. Yes, that's your initial instinct that comes from your carnal self. When Jesus was railing on the hypocrites, he didn't hate them. He was just angry. He was infuriated and wanted them to stop being hypocrites and repent and to see the gravity of the situation, that you're headed for hell. You whitewashed tombs, you brood of vipers. That's what they are. So anybody that's going along with this system is headed, whether advertently, intentionally, or inadvertently. And again, I can't judge because I'm only human. I don't have that kind of intuition and insight and wisdom that the Almighty Creator beholds. But I know this much, is that we're loved. And that's a very important factor to embrace for all of us. We're loved. And that we have this very powerful friend in God, in good, in our divine parents, that wants nothing but the best for us, wants us to be happy and free, and to spread goodwill and cheer among men, and and hope, and belief, have that mustard seed of faith in the fact that this will turn around, and it may get rocky. We don't know how rocky before this final event takes place, where good overcomes once and for all the wicked on this earth, and the wicked has been ruling through violence. So this has been a very, very difficult thing for God to solve. He's had to use a great deal of tact and patience and restraint. And those are good qualities that we often forget, because we say, well, why does God allow this? Why does God allow that? Well, because God represents these qualities that are actually beautiful, though we as human beings, we forget that. We forget how beautiful restraint, can be, and for a purpose, so that his name is vindicated, so that when all is said and done, nobody is pointing a finger at God and saying, you acted with hubris, you acted unreasonably, you weren't patient enough, you weren't restrained enough when you banished these evildoers to that terrible place where they had to be alone. That's probably the greatest punishment for these people. It's not like, Satan's, whipping them, or, they're hanging out in these hot flames, but that's happening from within their own conscience, when they're all stuck with each other, and all they have is like-minded people. They're all around people just like themselves. Remember, again, advertently and inadvertently, you wound up in this place because you didn't care enough about the welfare of your fellow human being. You didn't say, I get it, I get it. What's really important is understanding that his welfare, her welfare, is inextricably entwined, entangled in my own. And that's just an immutable fact, law of the universe that I cannot escape. And in my right mind, I don't want to escape. I want to see things through divine eyes. I want to have the same point of view and perspective and opinion as God Almighty. I want to be a good kid. I want to be a good friend. I want to be happy. That's really what it comes down to. Ultimately, I just want to be really happy. I want to embrace that joy 24 hours a day. I want my kids to be able to. That euphoria, that peace of mind, that bliss, that sense of well-being. I want that for you. I want that because I want it for me. And the only way I can have it for me is wanting it for you. And as far as my enemies go, I have to know that my heart is pure. That everybody that I ever believed did me wrong, actually did me wrong, or whatever. I've got to believe that they can be turned around. And if I bless them in my heart, at least I know that I'm free. That I'm not holding a grudge, and that I'm not a murderer. I don't want bad things to happen to people, because Jesus said that's how easy it is to be a murderer. That's why I'm against capital punishments, which I'll get into on another video. But I mean, that's a pretty good reason right there. Let vengeance be mine, said the Lord. And so anyhow, I'm going to shift gears now and get into a laundry list of things I think you'll find interesting. A lot of people don't seem to grasp the idea that there's all these collective groups, these special interest groups, that have an interest in problems prevailing. In other words, to never have the problem solved. And I started thinking about this recently. It started with Eisenhower's phrase, the military-industrial complex. And I just started thinking about how many different industrial complexes are set up that are established in this current monetary-based system, whose job security, whose relevance depends upon the problem persisting. If the problem ever goes away, all these people employed within these agencies, who's needs a paycheck, who needs the God of this world, the money, the filthy lucre, in order to survive. In order for them to have that job security, they have to have that problem must persist, okay? And this is something that we've all got to understand. It's not just the military industry, okay? That's just actually a branch. And I've got a list here. I've got about 15 or 20 different industries I'm going to point out. But it's important to understand that when we focus on one evil entity, one evil industry, then we're losing the point. The point is that the top policymakers are the money printers. These are the ones that are, knowing it or not, in cahoots with that spirit of evil, that spirit of Satan, that is controlling humanity through money. These people do nothing useful for humanity. They don't drive trucks. They don't build houses. They don't grow food. They do nothing. They're just big, fat pigs, leeches. That's knowing them by their fruits. Again, I'm not condemning them. I'm just saying, that's God's place. But I'm just pointing out the facts. I'm just exposing the evil deeds, the wicked deeds of darkness. I want nothing to do with these people. They can't buy my soul. They can't compromise my soul. That's already been given away to the force for good, let's say, to God. And, so, they hate people like me. They hated Jesus. They knew that about him. And there's so many. There's billions of people on the earth probably the same way, that they can't be bought. And they absolutely hate these kind of people. And they want them to just go away. They want them dead like they wanted Jesus. They seethed with hatred and anger. Over and over, they just were incensed and wanted to murder him. And so you've got to understand, when you take a stand and you're not for sale, part of your soul, your heart, your mind, your spirit, your body, anything is for sale. I mean, you might fall on your face in many ways and sin and do stupid things. That's between you and God. As long as you're not, who the sin is coming through, and you're not doing it for money, okay, that it's just a weakness, an Achilles heel, let's say, that's a whole different kind of sin. But when you're intentional, then you're blasphemous. When you know right from wrong, you know good from evil, you know truth from lies, and you choose to go that way, you're on some very thin ice, okay? And that's where you really got to watch your P's and Q's and say, hey, maybe it's time I jump ship from this establishment and start blowing the whistle and start admitting that my own occupation is tainted with evil, and that I in all conscience I've got to object. I've got to say I'm not going to follow the guidelines you've given me. I'm going to tell you I won't do this, I won't do that, and I am going to teach this, I'm going to teach that, because I believe this is just being true to myself, and this is something I must do in order to be somebody. It's that simple. I mean, if you're a liar, who are you? You might have deceived people successfully, so that's what you're going to go down in history known as, a deceiver. What substance do you have? What character is that? You know, what's your essence going to be? Putrid. And you're going to go to a dark place until you learn on your own, of your own free will, because that's what it's about. It's about free will and choice. We choose to be a loving, kind, decent human being of our own accord, our own free will. It's not that God is saying you do it or this is going to happen. It's just a fact that we should learn to do this, or it's going to be painful. We're never going to overcome, and we're never going to find happiness. And we can bet that, if we're not going up and we're not staying still, then we're going down, because you can't stand still. All of us know that this is transient. We're just passing through this human existence. But anyhow, let me go on to a few of the industrial complexes I stumbled upon recently. And we're so typically, we're so inculcated, indoctrinated into trusting in this system that we blame the cause. I mean, we blame the effect and not the cause of our problems. And it's time we understand that. Like people, when the minimum wage workers, I think, is a great example, because people are tending to want to blame the workers for being greedy. And, well, if we do that, there'll be negative implications in our economy. So why do you want that? It's going to cause inflation. Why would these workers want a cost of living adjustment? And to me, it's clear as light of day that that's evil thinking. Is that what you want for yourself? Are you living by the golden rule? Okay, if you're a farm worker, how do you want to be treated? If you're out there working in the sun, doing there's no more vital job that exists on the planet than picking the food for humanity to eat, to survive, basic sustenance. And we think it's okay to subjugate these people, and we wonder why we have the problems we have. It's like karma, collective bad karma here in America, and we've got to get it. How do you have sound currency? You need checks and balances, and wages are one of the best ways to do that. And also, we need to shoot for full employment, so everybody feels appreciated, even if that means you got a 4-hour work week. Tough luck. Find something else to do with your time. That's the reality that we could have today. Superfluity of the yin yang, man. Go anywhere in the world. Vacant houses everywhere, maintained, with gardeners and housekeepers taking care of them, having fun. I mean, this is the world we could have right now. All the water, through desalination. Never have to worry about rainfall again. Okay? That's a world that we could have today if we just weren't evil, and we stopped allowing evil to keep pushing the envelope, because that's what's happening right now. It keeps pushing and pushing and pushing and seeing what people will take. So again, I digress, because I was talking about minimum wage. Blame the cause. Blame those people that manipulated markets and are doing price fixing. Not at all based on supply and demand. Price fixing is the opposite of supply and demand. If we had supply and demand, and we shared everything on the planet right now, everybody could drive a new car anytime they want. Everybody could have a nice house. There'd be plenty. There'd be less hoarding. There'd be so much security in knowing that you could go to a giant warehouse anywhere in your locale and find the car of your choice anytime you want. Anytime. And mechanics are with having fun maintaining those cars. This is the world we could have, folks, today. It's not even hard to imagine it. Just try a little bit. These people have got us so indoctrinated into believing in, we need artificial austerity, artificial scarcity. This is poverty is oppression. Read about it. Study. This is how people are oppressed. This is how they're made miserable. This is how they're made frustrated. Okay? To what end? Where does it end? Unless the people rise up and say, no, 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 no. We don't want to be oppressed. We don't want to be miserable. And we know the cause. It's you market manipulators. You leeches, you big fat mooches that do nothing for humanity. Okay? And we see you. We're going to take your power away. We're going to find decent law enforcement out there, decent military, that are going to arrest your behinds. You know, we're so quick to blame the welfare recipients. These are the people that create the need for the welfare. Who are the biggest welfare recipients out? Guys like the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, you know, the royalty, the Bushes, the Clintons. All these people, these are the big fat